From a $250 million lawsuit, to being arrested and dropped by Marvel and Hollywood, to public outbursts that were caught on camera, and also, Justin Baldoni legal team just announced they will be releasing every text message between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Things are about to get heated for 2025. Justin Baldoni. Blake Lively is trying to get Justin Baldoni canceled from Hollywood. Lively's lawsuit. In her lawsuit, Lively alleges inappropriate harassment, the creation of a hostile work environment, and retaliation against her for complaining about Baldoni's behavior. Justin Baldoni's counter-lawsuit. Baldoni has filed a countersuit against Lively, accusing her and the New York Times of a smear campaign against him. Right now, Justin Baldoni is suing the New York Times for $250 million. He has accused the New York Times of relying almost entirely on Blake's unverified and self-serving narrative and purposefully omitting evidence from its article that allegedly contradicted Blake's claims. Blake Lively is about to face a lawsuit from Justin Baldoni. Justin Baldoni lawyers said in a statement that they plan to release every text message between them. The legal team also had this to say: "We want the truth to be out there. We want the documents to be out there. We want people to make their determination based on receipts." There have already been leaked text messages to the media. One alleged text exchange highlighted in Lively's complaint involves a conversation between Baldoni's publicists. One publicist states, "He wants to feel like she can be buried." Another responds, "Of course," while acknowledging the potential risk. "We can't write, we will destroy her." Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. You know we can bury anyone. Lizzo. Hollywood hates her. Even her own fans are having a tough time liking her after a ton of allegations came out about her. Let's talk about the harassment lawsuit. Former dancers have filed a lawsuit against Lizzo and her production company, alleging inappropriate harassment, religious discrimination, and a hostile work environment. One of Lizzo's dancers had this to say: "Everything she's done for Black women, for curvy people in general, for the queer community, bringing power to all those communities, it just feels like a waste." Lizzo's career was very short-lived. Let's move on. Jonah Hill. Strong baby incident. A leaked private conversation with an ex-girlfriend revealed condescending and controlling language towards her. Verbal altercation with a paparazzo. In 2014, Hill was involved in a heated exchange with a photographer, during which he used strong language. Public outbursts. He has a history of public confrontations, including with paparazzi. Hollywood doesn't want this type of person representing them, which is why he has been very limited to what movies he is in. Jonathan Majors, he was supposed to be the new face of Marvel, but instead he was sentenced. Because of all the charges Jonathan Majors received, he was dropped from all of his projects. Here is a quick timeline of Jonathan Majors' arrests and charges. March 26, 2023. Jonathan Majors is charged with assault and harassment. Jonathan Majors' U.S. Army recruitment ads were paused because of this. On April 18, 2023, Jonathan Majors' public relations company parted ways with him. A day later, multiple abuse victims of Jonathan Majors came forward. A few months after that, there was a domestic violence complaint. During this time, Marvel was filming the Loki Season 2 that he played in. Soon after Marvel dropped him and all of his roles, there would be no reason for Marvel or Hollywood to ever work with Jonathan Majors again.
Kirk, a child prodigy, made his Hollywood debut at an early age, starring in various TV shows and films. Renowned for his 7-season portrayal of Mike Seaver on the sitcom Growing Pains. He also made notable appearances in films like Father, Like Son, and Listen to Me. However, Cameron today is less recognized for his acting credentials and is more associated with his extreme Christian ideologies. His persistent public discussions about his religious beliefs, including his views on homosexuality, have largely led to his exclusion from Hollywood. Irrespective of whether he's participating in TV interviews or using social media, Cameron persistently shares his religious beliefs and views. Kirk's early success in Hollywood was undeniable, with his talent and charisma making him a household name at a young age. However, as he grew older, his focus shifted from acting to spreading his religious beliefs. And despite the backlash and criticism, Cameron remains steadfast in sharing his faith with others. But Cameron's commitment to his religious beliefs has not only affected his career in Hollywood, but also his personal relationships. He's married to actress Chelsea Noble, who shares similar beliefs as him, and they have 6 children together. Next up, Brendan Fraser, recognized for his roles in late 90s and early 2000s blockbusters like Bedazzled and The Mummy. Brendan experienced a significant decrease in his acting roles as the 2000s progressed. Fraser attributes this downturn in his career, in part, to a disturbing encounter with Philip Burke, the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. He alleges that Burke him at the Beverly Hills Hotel in 2003, and as a result of his defiance, the HFPA has seldom invited him to the Golden Globes since the incident. Burke disputes Fraser's narrative, insisting in his 2014 memoir that his interaction with Fraser was merely a wistful pinch on the behind. While Fraser acknowledges there may be other factors contributing to his diminished workload, he strongly believes his experience with Burke played a significant role. In recent years, the #MeToo movement has brought attention to the pervasive issue of in Hollywood. Fraser's story is just one example of many where a powerful individual in the entertainment industry has used their position to exploit someone. Next, Roseanne Barr, the actress and comedian known for her staunch support of Donald Trump's presidency, has often been a contentious figure in Hollywood. However, in May 2018, Barr's typically fiery Twitter commentary crossed a line when she posted a racially offensive tweet about Valerie Jarrett, a senior advisor to former President Barack Obama. Barr soon deleted the tweet and offered an apology, but the damage was done. ABC responded swiftly by canceling the Roseanne reboot on the very same day. The president of the company tagged her comments as abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values. Up next, Tippi Hedren, who embarked on her journey in the fashion industry as a model in her early 20s, but it was the iconic filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock who spotted her potential and launched her into the Hollywood limelight. Hedren's talent shone through in two of Hitchcock's captivating creations, the spine-chilling thriller The Birds and the intriguing psychological drama Marnie. However, the duo's professional rapport soured when Hitchcock allegedly crossed professional boundaries with unwelcome sexual advances. After Hedren decisively rejected Hitchcock and declared Marnie their final project together, a furious Hitchcock vowed to sabotage her career. He kept her tied to a contract that barred her from working for 2 years before begrudgingly selling it in 1966. Nevertheless, Hedren's tenacity saw her acting career bounce back, and she later found her voice as a dedicated advocate for animal rights. Up next, Monique, renowned comedian and actor known as Monique Angela Hicks in her daily life. First rose to fame through her hilarious stand-up shows and her unforgettable role as Nicole Nikki Parker in the popular UPN series The Parkers from 1999 to 2004, but it was in 2009 when she portrayed an abusive mother in Lee Daniels' film Precious that she truly took the limelight. Her stunning performance earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, setting a new pinnacle in her career. Yet, Monique's journey took an unexpected turn after her Precious triumph. In a 2015 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, she revealed that her film and TV roles had dwindled significantly. She pointed to her stance during the 2010 Oscar campaign for Precious as the reason behind her decline. She even mentioned a phone call with Lee Daniels, the director of Precious, who allegedly told her that Hollywood had excluded her for not playing by their rules. Daniels later commented on Monique's allegations, vaguely confirming her statements by saying her demands through Precious were not always in line with the campaign, which caused a rift between her and the Hollywood community. Now let's talk about an actor who's been a staple in Hollywood for many years. Yes, we're discussing Isaiah Washington. With numerous notable television and movie roles under his belt, he's no stranger to the limelight. But the role that really brought him into the spotlight was his portrayal of Preston Burke in the hit show Grey's Anatomy. However, his career took a turn for the worse after he used a homophobic slur towards a fellow cast member. The incident not only led to the exit from the show, but also put him on Hollywood's blacklist. The situation was further exacerbated when he repeated the slur following a Golden Globe win for the show. Today, while he periodically appears in roles, his career never really regained the momentum it once had. For many, this incident defined Washington's career and overshadowed his previous successes. However, it also opened up a conversation about the problem of homophobia in Hollywood and the lack of consequences for those who perpetuate it. Since then, Washington has publicly apologized for his actions and has been an advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. Despite making a stellar comeback as a director with Hacksaw Ridge in 2016, Mel Gibson continues to remain largely ostracized from Hollywood. It's unlikely we'll witness much of his acting prowess in the future. Gibson, who enjoyed immense popularity and success as an actor and director during the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, saw his career irreparably tarnished due to a series of highly publicized meltdowns. One of the most damaging incidents involved an anti-Semitic tirade during a DUI arrest, which was widely reported and condemned globally. More than a decade has passed since the incident, and while some fans have extended their forgiveness, years. A significant portion can't seem to shake off the recollection of his controversial actions and words. Despite his past controversies, Mel Gibson has not completely disappeared from the industry. In 2019, he directed and co-wrote the critically acclaimed film Hacksaw Ridge, which received multiple nominations at major award ceremonies, including the Academy Awards. However, it's clear that the public perception of Gibson has greatly shifted since his heyday. He's no longer the beloved actor and director he once was, but rather a controversial figure who continues to face backlash for his past transgressions. Next, CeeLo Green first made his mark in the music scene in the mid-90s, but it was his 2010 breakout single F.U., which skyrocketed to the #2 spot on the Billboard charts, that truly stamped his name in the industry. His newfound fame opened doors to opportunities such as becoming a judge on The Voice and even landing his own TV show. However, his career took a nosedive following some highly inappropriate tweets concerning homophobia. As a result, Green faced serious backlash, losing his TV show, his position on The Voice, and even being turned away from his booked concert gigs. CeeLo Green has since apologized for his actions and has faced criticism for his lack of accountability. However, he's also received support from fans who believe in forgiveness and second chances. Now let's talk about public meltdowns, and who better to discuss than Charlie Sheen. This man, once a gifted actor and among the highest paid TV stars worldwide, is now largely known for his drug-fueled, very public meltdown a few years ago. Anyone remember #winning and Tiger Blood? He was kicked off 2.5 Men, where he was making nearly $2 million per episode. Many saw him as someone who'd clearly gone off the deep end after years of alcohol, and although he has done a bit of work since then, most organizations steer clear from Sheen and his outlandish behavior. Charlie Sheen's public meltdown is a prime example of how one's personal life can have a major impact on their professional career. Despite being incredibly talented and successful in his field, Sheen's actions outside of work ultimately led to his downfall. And last on our countdown, only about 10 years ago, Vince Vaughn was one of Hollywood's busiest actors, with a flourishing career. His quick wit and charisma made him a fan favorite, especially in numerous iconic comedies. However, his presence in Hollywood seems to have dwindled recently, suggesting that his prime time as an actor might be behind him. His overlooked status is subtle and seems to stem from his limited acting range and his political ideologies. Although conservatism isn't inherently problematic, advocating for guns in all schools as a countermeasure to mass shootings can make studios hesitant. His ability to shine has also been restricted to comedic roles, often in tandem with Owen Wilson, as evidenced by his stint on HBO's True Detective.
First up, James Corden. The talk show host was banned from Balthazar, a popular New York City restaurant, for his alleged mistreatment of the staff that worked there. The restaurant's owner publicly called him out for his rude behavior, describing him as like the most horrific customer in the restaurant's history. He explained in an Instagram post that on one occasion, Corden was very nasty to the staff after he found a hair in his food, and that on another occasion, he flipped out on the server when they messed up his wife's order. The hair in the food moment, yeah, gross. Basically what happened was that Corden showed a hair to the manager after his meal. He allegedly demanded free drinks and threatened to write a bad Yelp review. Corden was also angry when his wife was served an omelet with egg white in it, and then again when it was remade with home fries instead of a salad. The internet, of course, had a field day with this one, and the ban was later rescinded after Corden actually apologized. Corden admitted to being ungrateful to a server, and he called the ban silly and said he still doesn't feel like he did anything too wrong. He also addressed the incident on The Late Late Show. He said, as some of you may have seen last week, there were stories about me being banned from a restaurant. He explained that after the owner took to Instagram to share the incident, he thought about doing so himself, but decided to have a more British approach to it all and kept calm and carried on. He continued to say, but as my dad pointed out to me, he said, son, well, you did complain, so you might need to explain. Look, when you make a mistake, you've got to take responsibility. He followed that by explaining his recollection of the events that night and said he has a deep love for that restaurant and that his wife apparently just has a really bad allergy, and considering the servers got the order wrong like 3 times, that he was frustrated. He said his comments were meant to be sarcastic, but they were rude and he regretted it deeply. He said the managers were actually quite lovely about everything and even brought some champagne to the table. The incident highlighted the scrutiny celebrities face regarding their behavior in public. Hugh Grant is next. In Paul King's Paddington 2, Hugh Grant played an egocentric actor named Phoenix Buchanan, a greedy villain given to flights of narcissism. Given what Jon Stewart has said about Grant, it might not have been a stretch for him to play such a character. Grant had a bad reputation and has been taken to task by the press several times in the past for losing his temper on set. Most recently, Grant was actually actually reported to have yelled very harshly at a woman on the set of Dungeons and Dragons. He assumed that the woman was, a visiting executive, and he was infuriated by her demands. As it turns out, the woman was an on-set chaperone for one of the film's child actors, and certainly didn't deserve the attack. Now, back in 2012, however, Grant already recognized this about himself. In a 2015 interview with Vanity Fair, he admitted to throwing a tantrum backstage on The Daily Show right in front of the host Jon Stewart. He confessed saying, "I did have a tantrum backstage about once a year. I have a really mega tantrum." And sadly, he witnessed one. In between tantrums, Grant seems to be decent, but he also regularly appears to be in a position where he becomes inexclusively, angry and makes unreasonable demands, of his coworkers. Of course, this was after Stewart had already called the actor out while being interviewed by Stephen Colbert live on stage at the Wellmont Theater in New Jersey. Now, according to the Daily Show host, Grant was like the worst guest he had ever had on his series, and that included some of the political monsters and dictators that he has, deliberately hosted. Miley Cyrus is banned from performing in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic Government Commission that oversees public performances banned a concert by Miley Cyrus on morality grounds. The commission said in a statement that it took the action because Cyrus often, undertakes acts that go against morals and customs, which are punishable by Dominican law. Some critics have declared Cyrus's on-stage antics, including twerking and, doing other stuff, as vulgar. Now, Miley Cyrus's twerking has been deemed too offensive for the Dominican Republic government. The singer's Bangers World Tour, sees her actually wearing like a cannabis pattern leotard. Cyrus has also previously, smoked cannabis on stage, which is an illegal act in the Dominican Republic. So in the past, the commission has banned songs it considered vulgar from the country's airwaves. A representative for Cyrus did not immediately respond to a request for comment, and concert, organizers in the Dominican Republic didn't comment on the ban either. Madonna is up. The Alamo Drafthouse movie theater chain has banned Madonna from its theaters after reports that the Queen of Pop was texting during a New York Film Festival screening of 12 Years a Slave. Her Majesty attended the festival screening of Fox Searchlight's Oscar hopeful, posing for photos with director Steve McQueen. Now, during the film though, she was reportedly texting and lashed out at a fellow audience member who tried to get her to stop. According to several outlets, film critic Charles Taylor shared the following story from an audience member at that screening. It said, "Tonight at the New York Film Festival premiere of 12 Years a Slave, I sat behind the unholy trifecta of Jason Ritter, Jay Alexander from America's Next Top Model, and Michael K. Williams from The Wire. Plus, a very mysterious blonde in black lace gloves who wouldn't stop texting on her BlackBerry throughout the first half of the movie. Eventually, a woman next to me tapped her on the shoulder and told her to put her phone away. The blonde hissed back, 'It's for business, enslavers.' I turned to the shoulder tapper and loudly said, 'Thanks,' and gave her a thumbs up. The rest of the movie, I kept thinking about how I wanted to tell the blonde what a disgrace she was. During the standing ovation, the blonde ducked out and Jason Ritter turned around to make commiserating eye contact as Jay Alexander asked, 'Who was that?' Jason then looked down at the floor. His eyes got wide and he picked up an envelope and it showed it to us, Jay, and it said 2 screening tickets, Madonna. And sure enough, we looked to the side of the theater and standing against the wall in black lace gloves was Madonna, the worst person in America. The Drafthouse chain has had a strict no talking and no texting policy and will eject, people who violate it. So when founder and CEO Tim Lee read reports of Madonna's behavior, he tweeted a tweet that said, "Until she apologizes to movie fans, Madonna is banned from watching movies here." Now, it's unclear if Madonna ever apologized, but honestly, I doubt she cares. Last on my list, I got Janet Jackson, sister to late Michael, and queen of not apologizing. Janet Jackson says she was disinvited from the 2004 Grammys after her wardrobe malfunction scandal with Justin Timberlake at their Super Bowl halftime show that same year. In her documentary titled Janet, the singer reveals she was asked not to come back to the Grammy Awards after Timberlake accidentally stripped her during a Super Bowl performance. Now, on February 1st, 2004, a wardrobe malfunction occurred on stage at the annual NFL Championship. It might have seemed innocent enough, but the infamous moment had devastating consequences on Jackson's career. Jackson was on stage performing, a medley of her hits when fellow pop star Timberlake made a surprise appearance to perform a duet. The pair sang Timberlake's hit Rock Your Body when, at the final line of the song, the former NSYNC member actually pulled off a part of Jackson's costume. Timberlake was supposed supposed to pull away the bustier to reveal a red lace bra. Instead, the garment malfunctioned and the singer exposed Jackson's bare chest instead. Now, the Together Again singer's chest was broadcast to the world with only a small shield to cover her modesty. It was shown for less than 1 second before CBS cut the shot. Though it was, mere milliseconds, Jackson's, partial nudity triggered a wave of outrage across conservative America. It was aired to an audience of around 150 million viewers around the world, and the Federal Communications Commission received more than 500,000 complaints about the performance. The public pearl clutching over Jackson's chest would almost end her career. Janet's ex-boyfriend at the time, Jermaine Dupri, also added, that he quit his role as a member of the Grammys board, after he learned of the injustice. Janet and Dupri actually dated from 2002 to 2009, and he said, I felt like they were disrespectful to Janet and I resigned at that point. Previously, the Huffington Post reported that Timberlake was allowed to perform after he tearfully apologized for the incident. The CBS chief executive, according to sources, was furious that Jackson didn't make an apology to him. Consequently, Jackson's music career began to suffer. Her songs and music videos were blacklisted from MTV and CBS as per the instruction of parent company Viacom. Now, the cultural impact of Jackson and Timberlake's performance was monumental. The inventors of YouTube even credited the incident, as one of the reasons they launched the platform. The moment also triggered a years-long debate and culture war about, misogyny and the unfair treatment of Jackson.
Rose McGowan, who is best known for her role on the WB drama Charmed, has claimed that Harvey W. had her blacklisted from Hollywood. In the late 90s, he reportedly took advantage of her, and although she didn't press charges, she did reach a settlement with him for $100,000. Since then, she's found herself on the Hollywood blacklist. Filmmaker Robert Rodriguez actually confirmed this because he tried to get her off of that by offering her a part in his movie Grindhouse, which he was working on for a division of Harvey's company. Even though the film received great reviews from critics, it ended up tanking at the box office after Harvey had it buried. In tweets from 2017, Rose said she had sold a script to Amazon, which was in development, but then she learned a Harvey bailout was in the works, so she forcefully begged the studio head to do the right thing. She was ignored, deal was done, Amazon won a dirty Oscar. She said that she called her attorney, she said she wanted to get her script back, but before she could, Amazon Studios called to say her show was dead, and she was tweeting out repeatedly at the time. Now, she directed these tweets at Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, and he didn't respond. Now, it's not clear what script Rose was referring to, but in September of 2016, she did tell an audience at a film festival in Brooklyn that she sold her show to Amazon, that she wrote and would direct. She didn't reveal the subject matter, but she previously talked about her desire to make a show about her early experiences in living in a cult. Her family fled from one in 1980, and I for one would like to see that. In 2013, Corey Feldman went on The View to talk about how the Predator numbers are larger than anybody knows and include a ring reaching up into the Hollywood elite that's been shielded for years by the establishment. Barbara Walters looked at him with disbelief, hands clasped across her stomach, and snarled, "You're damaging an entire industry," as if to say that Hollywood itself was more valuable than wrecking lives. In a lengthy statement posted to Twitter, Charisma Carpenter detailed how Joss Whedon allegedly mistreated her during her time on both of his hit shows that she worked on, Buffy and Angel. Carpenter wrote that after nearly 2 decades of staying quiet and making excuses for traumatizing events, she finally had the courage to call out Joss Whedon for using his power in a bad way on numerous occasions. Following Charisma's allegations, which included claims that Whedon continuously made passive-aggressive threats to fire her, called her fat when she was 4 months pregnant, pitted cast members against one another, and unceremoniously fired her after accusing her of sabotaging the show, several of her Buffy and Angel castmates shared their thoughts on the situation and messages of support. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy on Buffy, said that while I am proud to have my name associated with Buffy Summers, I don't want to be forever associated with the name Joss Whedon. I stand with all survivors and am proud of them for speaking out. James Marsters, who played Spike, mentioned that while he will always be honored to have played the character, the Buffy set was not without challenges. He does not support harm of any kind, and he was heartbroken to learn of the experiences of some of the cast. He sent his love and support to everybody. So there was a lot of suspicions about the casting couch as a term used to characterize stars who are handed roles in exchange for favors long before the Harvey story broke. Megan Fox was one who spoke out. She spoke with GQ and laid out the cold hard facts, putting the rumors to rest. The actress stated that she would be honored to meet Hollywood legends and that she would be overjoyed by prospects, and then when she arrived, she would find out that meetings would be just a ruse. Many males in the profession were able to get away with sleeping with a lot of women, but she wasn't one of them. She was like, absolutely not, and that didn't help her career. Film critics and historians mentioned hey, does this ring a bell? Because Over the years in Hollywood, the risks for a lot of folks were kind of high if you didn't follow the leader. Fall in line. Vanessa Marquez had a recurring role on the hospital drama ER during the 90s, playing nurse Wendy Goldman, and alleged that George Clooney helped blacklist her after she spoke up about the harassment that was occurring on the set of the hit show. Now, Clooney has since denied the allegations, saying he had nothing to do with casting, he was an actor and only an actor. If she was told he was involved in any decision about her career, then she was lied to. The fact that he couldn't affect her career is only surpassed by the fact that he wouldn't have. Now, following her stint on ER, Vanessa hasn't really had a lot of work. Sadly. Tara Subkoff was an up-and-coming actress in the 90s. She had roles in movies like As Good as It Gets, All Over Me, The Last Days of Disco. She was up for a part in one of Harvey's movies when he offered her the role at a premiere after a party, and then he hit on her. Well, according to her, after she rejected his advances, she found herself on the Hollywood block list. She was the subject of false gossip, labeled difficult to work with, and by that I mean like too difficult to work with. She said it became impossible for her to get work as an actress after that, so then she had to start a new career path, and yeah. Poor thing. Harvey, once again, had Mira Sorvino's career derailed after she rejected his advances. She mentioned to Ronan Farrow that she had rejected him on several occasions and had even reported his harassment to a female employee at Miramax, and had then noticed that her career was starting to suffer. She mentioned like there may have been other factors, but she definitely felt iced out and that her rejection of Harvey had something to do with it. In December of 2017, director Peter Jackson came forward and admitted that Harvey had badmouthed Sorvino to him, telling him that she was a nightmare to work with and he should avoid her at all costs. Seeing a pattern here today. Tippi Hedren was Alfred Hitchcock's most iconic leading lady. Under his direction, she went from being a model to a respected actress. Unfortunately, he wanted a little more than to just direct her on screen. He was reportedly quite obsessed with her and made a number of unwanted advances, which she rejected. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from this time on, he expected me to make myself available in that nature and accessible to him, however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, when Tippi tried to get out of her contract with Hitchcock, he threatened to ruin her career, and then he followed through with his threat. Because he had her under contract, he was able to keep her on the payroll without actually employing her. He made sure to turn down any film offers that came in from other studios. Now, looking back at it, she actually has a pretty good attitude with the situation. She mentioned that he ruined her career, but he didn't ruin her life. That time of her life was over. She still admires him for his work, but not as a person. After Clint Eastwood dumped Sandra Locke back in 1989, she found herself blacklisted by all of Hollywood's major studios, and this lasted for like a decade. Before the breakup, she had quite the career. She had an Oscar nomination under her belt, she had starred in 6 films of his, she was a budding director, but her breakup with the legendary director was very messy. She arrived home one day to find that he had changed the locks on their shared home and had put her stuff in storage. In response, she filed a palimony suit against him. In 1990, they were able to reach an agreement. Eastwood actually set up a development/directing pact for her at Warner Brothers in exchange for her dropping the suit. But 5 years later, they're back in court. She alleged that he had compensated Warner Brothers to keep her out of work because they had rejected all of the 30 projects that she had proposed and didn't give her any of their in-house projects. When he realized the jury was going to side with Locke, he settled with her for an undisclosed amount. But her career was not magically resurrected. However, it did send out a message in Hollywood that powerful people can and will take advantage of their power, but in this case, we win. Being wrongfully touched is a problem for a lot of folks in Hollywood, be it man, woman, no matter what your gender is. A sad example of this is Brendan Fraser, who claimed in 2018 that at a public event, he went to shake the hand of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association president, or HFPA, Philip Burke, but instead Burke grabbed Fraser's behind. Now, Burke has described this account as a total fabrication, but then, in his 2014 memoir, he admitted to having groped him in jest. Sadly, when you combine this harm, Brendan's divorce at the time, and the death of his mother, it kind of launched him sadly into a depression that, combined with his health problems, led to a break in his career. He had completely turned away from the spotlight, but then he bravely and publicly shamed Burke for the indecency. Sadly, for quite a while after that, Brendan's work phone stopped ringing. But now he's back, and we'd love to see it.
Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni are boycotting the Golden Globes this year to try and avoid being made fun of by Nikki Glaser, who will be the first solo female host of the Golden Globes. This also included Ryan Reynolds. He will not be attending the award show, even though he is eligible to win an award. There might be a lot of winners of the Golden Globes who are not in attendance. Brendan Fraser is boycotting the Golden Globes this year. Back in 2018, actor Brendan Fraser publicly accused Philip Burke, a former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, of groping him at a luncheon. Fraser described the incident to GQ magazine, stating that Philip Burke inappropriately touched him during the event. He described feeling ill and like a little kid after the incident, and that it significantly impacted his career and confidence. The HFPA conducted an internal investigation and concluded that while Burke inappropriately touched Fraser, it was intended to be taken as a joke and there was nothing wrong, so nothing was ever done about the incident. Philip Burke has denied Fraser's accusations, calling them a total fabrication. In his 2014 memoir, he admitted to having pinched Fraser's butt. Tom Cruise. He was a winner of 3 Golden Globes. I say the word was because Tom Cruise gave back the awards. In 2021, Tom Cruise returned his 3 Golden Globe Awards to the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. This action was a direct response to the intense criticism and controversy surrounding the Hollywood Foreign Press Association at the time. But things didn't get resolved, so Tom Cruise will continue to boycott the Golden Globes. Tom Cruise has talked about the lack of diversity. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association faced significant backlash over the complete absence of Black members within its voting body. This lack of representation raised serious concerns about the organization's ability to fairly and accurately assess films and television shows that feature diverse casts and storylines. There has been an industry-wide backlash. The controversy sparked widespread condemnation from actors, filmmakers, and other industry professionals. Many called for significant reforms within the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Nicolas Cage. He also returned his Golden Globe Award in protest of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association's lack of diversity. Hugh Jackman, who is up for an award for the movie Deadpool and Wolverine, he won't be attending. Nikki Glaser admitted she's a bit worried about facing online backlash in her role as Golden Globes host. Usually the opening monologue is the most controversial part of the show, so let's find out what if she gets called for her inappropriate humor. Also, let's see who is offended by her. Joy Coy hosted last year's award show and people hated it. Many viewers and critics felt his opening monologue was uninspired, awkward, and fell flat. Jokes that were intended to be humorous often landed with silence or uncomfortable laughter from the audience. It felt very awkward.
Will Smith famously went viral after slapping Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars. Who can forget that, right? Smith attended the ceremony with his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and the two sat together and waited to see whether he'd won the Best Actor award for his role as Richard Williams in the tennis biopic King Richard. Although Smith won Best Actor for King Richard, Chris Rock's G.I. Jane joke about Jada dampened the moment and led to Smith slapping the comedian, then only to return to his seat and yell at Chris to keep his wife's name out his mouth. And he said it twice, so you just know he was serious. Now, the US stream attempted to mute this moment, but the slap aired fully in other countries across the world. Smith tried to apologize during his acceptance speech and told audiences, that love will make you do crazy things. Now, despite this, Smith resigned from the Academy and released a statement acknowledging his public attack on Rock, accepting full responsibility. The Academy actually confirmed that Smith was actually banned from their events for 10 years. Smith, was due to actually present the Best Actress award in 2023, but Halle Berry and Jessica Chastain replaced him. Smith cannot return to the Oscars until 2033. Will Smith being banned from the Oscars for 10 years is a shocking outcome from, one of the most controversial moments in Oscar history. But there is, some question about how much the ban will actually hold up over the next 2 decades. While there are a lot of critics who have spoken out against Smith's behavior at the Oscars, it would be ridiculous to suggest that he is in the same category as criminally convicted people like those of whom we do not speak of, but they rhyme with Marby Mimebeam and Smil Smosby. Now, it is quite clear those people will never have a career in Hollywood ever again, even if they don't end up serving, long prison sentences. However, in the case of Smith, Hollywood has already begun to embrace him once again. There was some question about, how the fallout of the infamous slap would affect Smith's career, but the box office success of Bad Boys 4 helped establish his comeback. When more time passes and the incident fades a little more from memory, Smith could make a return to the Oscars before his ban ends, so we'll have to wait and see. But as for now, he will not be in attendance of this year's ceremony. Established actor Richard Gere, whose filmography has included titles such as An Officer and a Gentleman, Pretty Woman, First Night, and American Gigolo, was actually banned from the Academy in 1993. Gere was issued a 20-year ban after he gave a speech while he presented the award for Best Best Art Direction. As Gere addressed the audience, he decided to go off speech, and he used his platform to discuss the issues in Tibet and called out the leader of the Chinese Communist Party at that time. Gere told viewers that they needed to allow people to live as free, independent people again. The Academy found his speech controversial, and Richard Gere was banned from presenting at the Oscars and future ceremonies for 2 decades. However, the actor still attended as a guest in 2003 alongside his Chicago co-stars. Chicago received an incredible 13 Oscar nominations and won 5, which included Catherine Zeta-Jones for Best Supporting Actress and producer Martin Richards for Best Picture. Gere returned to the ceremony after his ban was lifted in 2013 to introduce the Best Song nominee, Everybody Needs a Best Friend, performance by Norah Jones from the TED soundtrack. Now, Richard Gere's, Oscar ban was technically lifted in 2013, but the actor hasn't made any appearances at the ceremony in the years since. However, this isn't too surprising because, considering Gere hasn't been in too many movies lately since then, so no shock there. Oliver Stone, the legendary director who's known for his provocative films like Platoon and Savages, but what you might not know is that Stone was banned from the Oscars after he got into a fight with a producer at the 1996 ceremony. Apparently, Stone had a few too many drinks and got into an argument with the producer who was working on one of his films. The argument escalated into a physical fight, and Stone was escorted out of the ceremony by security. According to reports, Stone had been drinking very heavily throughout the evening and became increasingly agitated as the ceremony just went on. He eventually got into this argument with the producer who was working on one of the films, and the argument just escalated and things got a little physical and handsy. Now, Stone was escorted out of the ceremony by security, and he was subsequently banned from attending the Oscars forever, so he will not be in attendance this year. Mel Gibson was banned from the Academy Awards. Gibson was banned from the Oscars back in 2010 after he made a series of anti-Semitic and racist remarks during a drunken tirade. According to Winona Ryder, she claimed in an interview that Gibson made homophobic and anti-Semitic jokes to her at a party back in the 90s. She said, "I remember like 15 years ago, I was at one of those big Hollywood parties and he was really drunk. I was with my friend who happens to be gay. He made a really horrible gay joke and somehow it came up that I was Jewish. He said something about oven dodgers, but I didn't get it." She added, "I never heard that before. It was just this weird moment. I was like, he's anti-Semitic and he's homophobic. No one believed me." A spokesperson for Gibson actually issued a statement denying her accusations that said that, and said that she lied about it over a decade ago when she talked to the press and that she's lying about it now. Also, she lied about him trying to apologize to her back then, allegedly. He did reach out to her many years ago, apparently to confront her about her lies, and she refused to address it with him. Ryder issued a response to that, wishing Gibson well in the future. She said, "I believe in redemption and forgiveness and hope that Mr. Gibson has found a healthy way to deal with his demons, but I am not one of them. Around 1996, my friend Kevin Aucoin and I were on the receiving end of his hateful words." Ryder added, "It is a painful and vivid memory for me. Only by accepting responsibility for our behavior in this life can we make amends and truly respect each other, and I wish him well on this lifelong journey." Roman Polanski, Polish director Roman Polanski, was also officially expelled from the Academy back in 2018, although he hadn't attended the ceremony in the decades before this. But in 1978, Polanski left the United States after pleading guilty to having essayed a minor. Although he had learned that the judge would likely offer him a plea bargain, Polanski fled and exiled himself to Europe. In the year following these events, Polanski continued his career in Europe despite further allegations against him being made. Now, during his career in the United States, Polanski received 5 Academy nominations, but actually only won once, which was Best Director for The Pianist. Although reports about him were public knowledge, Polanski received a standing ovation at the 2003 Academy Awards. Polanski did not accept his Oscar in person, so Harrison Ford actually took it and presented it to him 5 months later at the Deauville Film Festival in France. Now, despite the allegations, Polanski received Oscar nominations for The Pianist and Tess after his exile, but wasn't expelled from the Academy until the organization actually reflected on his actions decades later, so he will not be there. And Adam Kimmel. Cinematographer Adam Kimmel's filmography included movies like Never Let Me Go, Jesus' Son, and Lars and the Real Girl. Now, despite his busy career, which began in 1987 with the music video for Fairy Tale of New York by The Pogues and Kirsty MacColl, Hollywood was unaware that Kimmel was a registered offender. Kimmel's crimes happened before and after he joined the Academy's cinematography branch in 2007, and reports against him ranged from 2003 to to 2010, and in 2020, Variety published an expose about Kimmel, which contained allegations that stated Kimmel essayed someone multiple times back in 2003. Now, Kimmel pleaded guilty in 2004 and was sentenced to 10 years of probation and listed on the essay offender registry. Now, in 2010, the same year that he worked on Never Let Me Go, he allegedly actually committed similar crimes against another minor. He was arrested for 4th-degree essay and failing to register as an offender in Connecticut. When the organization was asked why Kimmel was allowed to join in the first place, they replied that their membership was granted based on an honor system. Now, in 2021, the Academy officially expelled, Kimmel for his actions, so we will never see him in attendance, which is probably a good thing this year or future years to come.
For those of you who may not know, Jada ran a talk show for roughly 5 years called Red Table Talk. Unless you were glued to Facebook Watch, you probably missed this one. In 2018, Jada invited her mother Adrienne Banfield Norris and daughter Willow Smith to join her in an open conversation spanning 3 generations of women. Unfortunately, the series tended to drift into too much information territory, discussing topics between family that really should not be discussed with family. Another rough part of the series was that Jada would often bring in celebrity guests to also discuss these topics, as well as confront any issues that there may have been between them. She even brought her husband Will on the air at one point to discuss the infidelity scandals that had plagued their entire relationship. One of the most uncomfortable interviews in the show's history, and that's saying something. It was decided in April of this year that Red Table Talk would be cancelled and removed from the platform. When you have a show that you not only starred in but created from top to bottom, it's 100% your fault when it's eventually cancelled. The show is currently looking for a new home in the world of streaming, but has yet to land on one. Thankfully. Number 9. Cleopatra. The ill-fated TV series Cleopatra hit the air this year and received some of the worst reviews in human history. The show, produced and narrated by Jada, was released on Netflix and it quickly became one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a black actress named Adele James in the role of the titular Egyptian, causing many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Ironically though, Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor, with Elizabeth Taylor being the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was horrible. Many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, the terrible acting, and the historical inaccuracies, with a ton of the show being set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historical series. Netflix had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to the show, literally turning off the comments for the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile commentary. The show sits at a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and is unfortunately one of the few production gigs that Jada has under her belt. When a show that could have been great tanks hard, Hollywood tends to blame the person who made the thing. Number 8. The cheating scandals. For a long time now, Will and Jada have attempted to hide their various marriage misdeeds, but they've never truly been successful. While both were rumored to have been cheating on each other multiple times, it was Jada who was actually confirmed to be the cheater pumpkin eater. While rumors had been circulating that Will was romantically involved with his co-star Margot Robbie from Focus, those were quickly laid to rest. However, Jada was most certainly cheating on Will several times over the years, with her Hawthorne co-star Mark Anthony and musician August Alsina, and probably a few other people. The proof? Well, Will walked in on Jada and Mark getting busy, and Will was reduced to tears. While they were able to hide it at the time, the conversation that took place between herself and Will on Red Table Talk was quite revealing. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to cast someone who is known for causing trouble in my movie. Number 7. After Earth. In 2013, Jada helped to produce a film starring her husband Will and son Jaden Smith. Will Smith came up with the idea for After Earth while watching a science show on TV, and eventually that evolved into a science fiction story that takes place in the year 1000 AE, or 1000 years after the human race has left the planet because of pollution and global warming. The plot features a father and his teenage son who crash land on Earth. The teenager must save his injured father on what has become become a hostile planet. Now, Smith developed the movie as a star vehicle for his 14-year-old son Jaden. The actor sold his post-apocalyptic vision to M. Night Shyamalan to direct, and this high-budget vanity project was a family affair, with Jaden, Will, Jada, and even her brother Caleb Pinkett being key members of the production. The $130 million Smith family affair hit the big screen in 2013 and was instantly met with harsh criticism, scoring 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lambasted pretty much every single detail, including a plot that was generally regarded as boring and lifeless. Number 6. Her biases. When the Oscars So White controversy erupted in 2016, Will and Jada were among the most vocal critics of the Academy. For the second year in a row, all 20 of the actors nominated in the lead and supporting roles category were white, something that had not happened since 1998. Jada released a much publicized video explaining why she was boycotting the Oscars that year, hoping to shine a spotlight on institutional racism. However, the majority of Hollywood did not appreciate the things that she was saying about them. Not to mention, during an episode of her own talk show, the actress confessed that she has a tendency to judge others based on their race, revealing she specifically had a problem with white blonde women. According to Jada herself, blonde hair on a woman just kinda sets her off, and she's had to hold herself back a few times. She went on to reveal that she actually turned down several interviews over the years simply because the interviewer was a white blonde lady. She claims that her bias is due to her history of being bullied by women with those physical traits growing up. Regardless of why she hates them, blonde white women make up a lot of Hollywood these days, so it makes sense that Jada would be slapped on the do not hire list. Number 5. Neglectful parent. Rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. At a young age, Jaden was on track to become an A-list actor after starring in the 2008 remake of the classic Karate Kid movie alongside martial arts and opera legend Jackie Chan. But he later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which has gotten him a lot of success. His sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots, however, and she made quite a name for herself in the hip-hop genre. Unfortunately, their independent behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling them out on their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for the youngsters. Jaden and Willow recounted spending most of their childhood with nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents when they were working with them on projects or in between things, like when Jaden and Will were working together in the pursuit of happiness. Willow has backed up her brother's story, claiming that the parenting skills forced them to become mentally mature at a very young age, which may play some part in Jaden being so successful at 24. Despite appearing to be a happy family unit in the media, the reality is that Jaden and Willow have been raising themselves for a very long time, just making Jada look even worse than she already was. Number 4. The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor is a comedy classic from the legendary performer Eddie Murphy, based on a film from 1963 of the same name starring Jerry Lewis as the leading man. In the 1996 remake, Jada Pinkett Smith portrayed Eddie's love interest Carla Purdy, and despite the film being a lighthearted romp sharing the message of self-love, people hated her in that role. Of all the actors on the screen, Jada is the most out of place. While there wasn't a slew of massive A-listers on command, the cast involved did a great job and everyone had their own little memorable moments. However, Jada is just kinda there. Jada's acting career has been limited over the years, and for good reason. Especially when you put her next to a comedy legend like Eddie frickin' Murphy. That's like putting Jim Carrey and a tired sloth in a room together and telling them to have a rap battle. Jim Carrey wins every time. Her performance in the film was enough to make securing work in the following years difficult, but as you'll see, Hollywood gave her a second chance time and time again. Number 3. Gotham. Gotham is an underappreciated series from the world of DC set in Gotham City before Bruce Wayne even becomes Batman. We follow a young Jim Gordon as he deals with the criminals roaming Gotham streets. People like the Riddler, the Penguin, and of course Jada Pinkett Smith as mob boss Fish Mooney. Fish. DC is fantastic with names. The character acted as the frenemy to the Penguin, but whenever Jada was next to her co-star Robin Lord Taylor, she was outshined every time. In fact, she was outshined by everyone on the show. Her character was meant to be a scary bad guy that strikes fear into the hearts of those who encounter her, but instead, Jada delivered a monotone performance that the producers quickly noticed. By the end of season 3, Fish was written out of the story and left to rot on a dock. Number 2. Scream 2. Now, Scream 2 is not a bad movie. I'm just gonna start by saying that. The Scream franchise is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in this movie, when she's taken out by Ghostface. In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances over the years, spoiler alert, her character does not make it to the end of this movie. Oh wait, I already said that. Oops! She is taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but it's actually just Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to a character on screen. While this was one of the better scenes in Scream's history, it was the only scene where Jada came across as a good actor. The argument can be made that most young actors just play themselves on screen, but sometimes it feels like Jada forgot that the cameras were even on. At number 1, she manipulates. Many things about Jada's personality made celebrities speculate that she may have a hidden evil personality deep inside of her. Well, the Oscar ceremony that took place in 2022 kinda proved that she has a silver tongue. After host Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's balding head, Will Smith initially laughed, but then he looks at Jada, who's seen rolling her eyes and giving him a look of disappointment. The look was enough to force Will's smile away and cause him to do a complete 180, taking the stage to defend his wife. Jada is 100% the reason that situation took place. Despite claiming that she can't make Will do anything, she does have the power to say, "Hey honey, I'm okay, you can leave Chris Rock alone." Instead, she just kinda sat back, watched, and laughed maniacally, so the only thing she's gonna be acting in anytime soon is a therapist's office.